Welcome to the channel. This is Waga, and we are going to continue building our SwiftUI Instagram clone. And what we're going to do in this video today is we are going to build out our search bar, right? Now, to the more keen-eyed of you will notice, that we are not in our app. Remember, our app can't show what are they called? We need a workaround for it to work with Firebase so that you can see previews, which doesn't make sense, right? So what we're going to do in order to see what we're building, because we're working with what you're going to do right now is build a visual sort of component. We're building a component, right? So it's not going to interact with Firebase, doesn't need to for now. So what you're going to do is just I created another app called test app, and I created a file called search bar. So you're going to build it here, then copy the code to our app, our Flexigram app. I believe that's what we called it, Flexigram. Yeah, we copy it to the Flexigram, but we want to get visual feedback as we're building it, right? So that's what we're going to do, and we can start now. So the very first thing we want to do is we could have we could come here and we could have an H stack. Let's have an H stack like so, and the H stack inside is going to have a text field, and the text field is going to have the first argument is going to be the label that appears, and we could say here search let's call it users here, like so. And we need to bind it to something, and what we're going to bind it to is we could say here text, and this is going to be $ search users, like so. Search users, let's capitalize it, and we need a state variable for that. And to do that, we have to come here under the view, and we can say at state, and this can be var search users, and it's going to start its life off as an empty string, like so. So we could hit try again, and maybe we could see it. Okay, apparently it has refused to show us the okay, fine, we see it here, a bit not the prettiest. And we could add some padding to it. We could say some padding, and we could start the padding at the front, or the left rather. We could say leading, and we could make this 24, like so. We could save, and we see the search users moves, search users here. Let's just make this a small u, lowercase u, like so. And we could add some padding. We could say dot padding, like so. So we have added some padding, and we could give it a background. We could say background, and the background in question is going to be color. And the color actually we need to use is one called system gray number 5, like so, which is a sort of light gray. And we are then going to give it a corner radius. We could come here and say corner radius, and the corner radius we want is double what is offered. We could say 6.0, like so. And after that, we need to give it some horizontal padding. So we could say padding, like that, and we want to give it horizontal padding, like so, right? And we can see the effects or what is done over there. Next, we can use an overlay to put the various items we want. We want for some reason iOS normally puts the magnifying glass for the search to the left, and it puts an X to the right, which is okay, I guess. And we could do that by using an overlay, right? And the overlay is going to be we could have an H stack inside, and this can be an H stack, like so. And we're going to have an image, and the image is going to have a system name, and the system name is going to be you guessed it, magnifying glass, like so. And we are going to put a spacer in it so that we push it to one side, like so. And you can see it has been pushed to one side, and underneath it we are going to have another image, and this image is going to be system name, like so. And this is going to be x mark dot circle dot fill, which will be at the corresponding end, right? And for that, or rather for this H stack, we're going to put padding and the padding in question is going to be dot, so that they can both be inside. And we could say dot horizontal, and this can be 32, like so. And the foreground color, we want to make sure that the foreground color in question is going to be gray, like so. So we basically have, if we can make this a live preview. Okay, how do you make it a live preview? I think you hit this, and okay, there. So basically that is our search bar. Do is we need to make sure that that we can, when you click on the X, you can clear out the whatever has been typed here. And for that, we could come here and we could say at state var, and we could say is, let me just spell it correctly, is searching, and this will start off as shoe, like so. And we could come to our H stack, and after the padding, but before the overlay, we could give it an on tapped gesture, and we could say on tap gesture. And what we're going to perform is, when you tap into it, the searching is going to be set to let's start it off as false rather than true. Let's say false. And when you tap on it, it's going to be on is searching is going to be set to true, like so. And afterwards, we're going to come down here and we could put a button above the image, like we could wrap the image in a button, like so. We could say this, do this, put this, come here, do this, and in the action, like so, we could say search users is going to be equal to an empty string, right? And we can save this, and why is it complaining? Oh yeah, we're supposed to put it this like so, right? Okay, so if we hit resume, let's type here and type this and hit this button, it clears out, right? Clears out. So basically that is we need to, let's just save that file over there first. We need to make sure that we move to our main app, and we put the, the search bar among the components. And for that, we could just come here and hit Command N and create a new Swift file, or you could create SwiftUI. I'm just going to copy the code, right? So you could call it search. So basically put the search bar that you just created, right? And search bar, did we call it search bar with a capital B? I think yes. Let's do that. And when we come here, what we could do is we could just post what we just made, the search bar, like so. And I think we need to import SwiftUI. Import SwiftUI, like so. So basically when we do that, we have our search bar. And for the next thing we need to do is we need to create a helper method that we will use in the coming future, in the next few minutes, right? So that when we're writing the code, we don't have to stop there and go back to write the extension. So we're going to create an extension for this string that removes the white space to allow us to search for the search name. If you can remember user model, right? In the user model, let's come to the user model. We're going to create the function that will allow us to search for the search name, so that when you're searching for a user, you can get their name, right? And the user's called that in the database, in the Firebase, in Firestore, right? That's what the database is called, Firestore. So for that, we could just come to extension. Where is extension? I know it's somewhere down here. Or is it? No, it's actually in the utilities. So let's go to extension, and for extension, we could come amongst the string, and we could create a new function called remove white space. We want so that whether you type in capital A or capital Z, it's all made into lower space, so that we can search the we can search the search name, right? So we want to make everything lowercase, so that we search, because also when we were saving it in lowercase, we did the same thing. We trimmed it, then we lowercased it. Now we want, when a user is entering the search into our text field, which we will sort of like our search bar, we want to do the same, trim it and lowercase it, right? So basically this, we have already done this, but let's do it for the text field that we'll use as our search bar, right? So we could say remove white space like so, and this one is going to return a string right here, and we could come here and we say return components like so, and it's going to be separated by, and this is going to be dot white spaces, not white spaces, dot white spaces, and we are going to join it up like so. So basically, if we do that, we have our remove white space, right? And we can save it. And the next thing we need to do is we need to create a function that will handle our what do we call it? We need to create a function that will handle our search service, that will help us with the searching of the user, right? And for that, we could go to our services and we could hit Command N. Okay, wait. Why is it going to notification? Let's go to our services and hit Command N, and here we can have a Swift file. We can create a Swift file, right? And this is going to be search service like so, right? And what the search service is going to do is we're going to import Firebase auth like so, Firebase auth like so, and we're going to say class search service like so, and we're going to create a function to search the user, right? And we're going to call this static. We want to access it from anywhere. I think we've covered that before. We're going to call it search user, and it's going to have an input like so, and the input is going to be of type string, and on success we are going to have, could say at escaping, it will be run at the end of the closure, and we just want a user and an array filled with our user. We called it user or user model. Let me just check. It's called user model, but inside it's called user. Okay, fine. Our users are called users. Let's go back to search, the search user, like so. And the next thing we need to do here, this is going to return a void, of course, right? Let's not forget to do that. And we want a void, and we can come to our code block right here. And the first thing we need to do is we need to reach over to our collection of users and look for the field search name. So among our collection, the collection users. So let's have a look at our backend and see how we're going to get there. And now what we're going to do now, basically the function is going to reach over to the users, and among the users collection, it's going to look in the documents for the various documents for the field search name, right? So that we can look at this for this, right? This is what we're looking for, search name. I created another user for purposes of showing off this this functionality, especially in particular, right? So this is what we're going to look at. So we can minimize that and come back to our search service, right? And to reach to our root, remember our root is in the, if we can come to the auth service, we have this store root, which is firestore.firestore, right? So to access that, we just say, I think we've done this before, so you could say auth service.store root, right? And in the store root, we want to go to the collection in question. The collection we want to have is, like we just saw, is called users, like so. It's called users, like so. And the field we want to look at is, we could say where field, and the field we want to look at is called the search name, capitalize the N. If you can remember, it is this one here. If we can come to user model, we're looking at this one, right, which is an array, by the way, if you can remember that. So basically we want the search name, and what we want to check is that the array contains the input that we put in. You can see it here, the input, and we want it lowercase like so. Then we want to remove the white space, which we remove white space, which we just created as an extension on our string, right? And then we want to get documents, and then we want a code block here, and we have two arguments. And on the closure, we could say query query snapshot. You could call it whatever you want, but I'm going to call it query snapshot particularly because that's the, if you look at the documentation, this is what is given, right? So why change it? You could call it X and Y if you want, as long as you remember that, but you're going to make it more explicit so that it can remember it, right? So for that, the next thing we want to do is we could say guard let snap, and this is going to be query snapshot, else we want to, we could just print the error. We could print the error like so, print error like so, and we could return if that happened. And after that we will get our users who will be in an array. We could say user, which will be an empty array for starters, like so, right? And then we are going to look into our document. We could say guard let, oh, let me spell guard correctly, guard let decoded equals, we're going to try, and we could come here and say user dot init, and we want to do this from dictionary, and here we're going to have I actually forgot to type a line. So before you do this, we should come here and create a line. Let's create this line in particular. We could say for document in snap, the snap that we just created up here, snap dot documents, like so, because there are many. Remember, the collection has many documents. We could come here and put this like that. That's closing brace. And we could guard let decode. We give it space. Remember, this is Swift. We have to give it space. And we created this extension, I believe, in an earlier video, so you know that. And we've done it a couple of times. And we could say else. Oh, I forgot to also do the second line. The second line here, sorry. I could say let dict equals the dictionary. It's just going to be document.data that we get back, right? So when you get that, and we're going to pass it to our dict, else we're just going to return like so. And the next thing we need to do, we need to make sure is when a user makes a search for users, they should not be able to find themselves. It doesn't make, you have access to your profile in this tab, in the last tab, so you shouldn't have access to this, right? And I think we need to bring this, come back here and do that. Okay, that's better. So we could check that the user, we do not want the current user. We do not want you to search and find yourself among the searches, right? So we could say here if decoded dot uid is not, and to check that you are not the user, we could say auth dot auth like so dot current user, and we're sure you're going to be there dot uid, and we are going to say users dot append decoded. Just make sure that we only put the UIDs that are not yours, meaning that your UID, unique identifier, will not be among the ones that are returned, right? So the next thing on success is just to return. We could say on success, the next thing we want is just to return our users, like so. So basically this is the function that we'll do, that we will use, and that's what it looks like. And we can continue from there. Where to put our users, right? We want to make sure that when we click on the button here, like if we click on it, we go to our users view, right? We're going to use this search for displaying the most liked posts, right? And okay, our app is acting up again. We'll have to stop it and start it again. I actually haven't addressed the issue with the navigation bar, but I gather it's because it's been called multiple times, right? So the navigation bar isn't called once, it's called like multiple times. That's why it ends up, this navigation bar can look different on different tab screens, right? The navigation bar ideally and the tab bar shouldn't be used on the same. We should use them sparingly, right? Because they can be create issues, right? But if I find a solution, I will fix it. Now, we want to make sure that when you click this, you can go and search for the users, right? When you click this button here, we made it a button, right? And how you would do that is we need to create a new view, right? So we can come to views. Ignore this test. This test is just for testing like new components and whatnot. So ignore it. It shouldn't be in your list of views. You should have only sign in, sign up, home, search, post, notifications, profile, and main. And here we could come and create command and hit command N, and we're going to create a new SwiftUI view like so. And the SwiftUI view is going to be called user profile, different from the profile, right? The profile is the view that the user has access to. I normally see SwiftUI has an sort of image here. We could put an image. Now that I think about it, we could put an image, but it'll probably mess it up. Let's just leave it like this. You could put an image. They normally have on Instagram like an image of the user. But yeah, let's put user profile. We'll put those different adjustments and put the bio and whatnot towards the end, right? So for that, we need to create we could say besides it will be so small, like if we put this here it will be so small, but yeah, but it's possible, it can be done. So we can say user profile here like so, hit create. Okay, and the user profile, we need to create a bunch of strings, a bunch of state variables, right? And the first one we could create is called value, right? We could say at state, and this is going to be called private var value, and it's going to be of type string, and it's going to start off as an empty string, right? Like so. The next one is going to be at state var users. It's going to be an array of users, and we're going to start it off being empty like so. And the third one is going to be at state var is loading, and it's going to start off as false, right? Now we're going to create a function that we will reach out to such users, right? Why is it complaining? Cannot. Oh, it's supposed to be user, not users. That's why it's complaining. So we could say func, not fucking, func. Give ourselves a bit more real estate. Func. We could call it search users, like so. And when it starts off, we're going to say is loading is going to be false at the beginning, right? No, is loading is going to be true, right? Let's just make sure that the is loading is true, and then we're going to reach over to the search service like so, and the static function is called search user, and the input in question is going to be, we could just use the value like so, value, let me spell it correctly, value like so. We could get rid of this value like so, come here, put our code block, and we could say users in, and we're going to say self dot is loading is going to be set to false, and after that we're going to say self dot users is going to be users. Easy peasy, right? And so in our body, let's just get rid of our preview because we can't use it anyway. Like I said, there's a workaround I saw on Stack Overflow, but I didn't want to implement it because it would mean a bit more time. And we could say here scroll view. We could have a scroll view at the beginning in our body, and we want a VStack after it, a VStack like so. And then we can bring in our search bar, like so. And I think I made a change to the search bar since I'm recording the video one day after I made the search bar. So let's just go over the search bar quickly. I just remembered I did, instead of making this a state variable, I created the value as the binding, right? I can't remember what I called it in when I was recording the first half of this video, but whatever I called it, I created this first part, we're calling it binding. The rest of it is the same, right? Is searching and binding. Yeah, so basically that. Or yeah, okay, let's continue from the previous videos. And what I realized is that we had two state variables. One is called searching user and is searching and something like that, which are both states. The first one should be changed to, you could call it value and make it binding so that we can access it on the other side, right? So on the search bar, the first one is binding var value, the next one is searching, and it's a state. The rest of it is exactly the same, right? I made no changes. I was making the changes as I was working out what should be where, right? I made some changes on the fly or from my planned video, but otherwise the code, as you can see, is exactly the same. I'll leave it for like 5 seconds and then continue so that you can confirm that. Okay, I've cracked my knuckles in that time, and I think we can continue from there. So what we could do is we could come back to the profile view, and in the search bar, right, in the search bar we need to have it's going to need to for us to pass in an argument, and the argument we want is value, and the binding we need is up here, which is the same value we created. So we could just get rid of this and say value, like so. You can actually bind it like so. So we have the value, and we could give the search bar a bit of padding because it will be stuck at the top, right? We need to give it, it'll be, if you don't give it the padding, it won't be, it will be stuck to near the top, right? And the next thing we need to do is we're going to use something that is available only in and this is complaining here because we say users in, but it auto-corrected to indices, right? You should say users in, and the first suggestion is indices, right? So when you press enter to go down, right, to go to the next line, it selects indices. It's a problem I sometimes do, yeah. But you should come here and press enter so that you can go to the next line. So it should be in, not indices. And we can continue from there. And the next thing we need to do is we need to use an iOS 14 method. If you're on iOS 13, this method is not available and you'll need to think of a workaround, but thankfully it's not hard. It's we could have an onChange. We could run code every time a state variable changes or a variable, one of these property variables changes, right? And for that we could just say it's called onChange. It's with iOS 14, right? So, and what it takes is the value. We could say of, and the value we want to look at is, well, of is going to be value every time value changes. And what we want to perform, we could come here and what we want to perform is we could put a code block instead, and the code block is going to say whatever you want. Just say new in, and then what we want to do is call this this function we just created, search users, right? So every time the value changes, we want to call the search users, right? And after that we need to we could come down here and we could say if not is loading, right? If it's not loading, and we are going to reach out to create a for each. For now, we are just going to have to see the ID of the user. If it matches, it will give us an ID or whatever other thing you want. We could say maybe ID and something else and whatnot, right? So we could say for each, and for each we need the array of users, and the ID in question is going to be /.uid, like so. And in here we could say user in, and what we want is an h stack, like so. And the h stack is going to have a text, and the text in question is going to have, for now we just want to reach into the backend and fetch the, in the next video, because this video has already gone on for long enough, we'll have the we'll create like the profile header and whatnot so that you can see the information from the user, right? And for now we'll just say user dot email, and we could have another h stack underneath. Okay, fine. Let's just have the user email, right? And we could save this, and this is our code, right? But we do not have a way to get to this page. And for us to get a way to get to this page, we of course have to use a navigation link, right, on this button here, right, so that we can get to this page. And for that we could come to our profile, and in our profile we look for the, I think this one is person.fill, right? We look for the person.fill, and it's in the navigation. We have person.fill, and the next one is arrow, which this one, the second one, leads to the logout, right? So what we could do here is we could create we could wrap the image in a navigation link, right? So you could say here navigation link, like so, and put our braces like so, and here this takes a destination, and the destination in question, we could just get rid of this. The destination in question is going to be user profile, like so, like that. We call it user profile, right? We call it user profile. I can see. Yeah, we call it user profile. So basically do that in profile, and we can now test our app. And to test our app, we just need to restart it, like so, and give it a second, and we should get our. Oh, there's one thing we forgot to do. Actually, I remember. Let's go back to our user profile. It works. If you can click on it, you'll find that it works. But let's just give it a navigation title, right? And what we want is, okay, let's just, that's the scroll view. So in the scroll view, you could just say dot navigation title, and the title is going to be user search. And because, if you can remember on our custom view, on our custom, where is it? In the home view. In the home view. Yeah, in our custom bar, we say the navigation bar title display mode is inline. We don't have to repeat ourselves, right? So we can restart it again. We don't have to say it's automatically going to be inline, right? And let's come here and click on this button, and we get our user search, and we can go back to profile if we want, but we get our user search, and now we are logged in as, I'm guessing, password, right? So if we type password, we should see nothing, right? Password, right? But we have another user we created called test. So if we type T, we should get test at Gmail. Just the T is enough. T-S-T, is it test? T-S-S, there's no one else. And we can test it by coming back and logging out and logging in as test. I created test to test whether it works, and we could say here the password is going to be, the password is always password in my case. So we log in as password, give it a second. He has no posts, right? So we could come here and we get test. He has 0 posts, 0 followers, and 0 following. And we come here and we search for ourselves. We try searching for ourselves. Remember, there's code preventing us from being in the list, in the array, if our UID is the same as the current user ID, like if it's us logged in, right? So if we search for test, you find we can't find test, but we have a user called password. So if we search for P, capital P, we get password.gmail, password, right? So basically our code works, and now we can search for users, but only of course get their names. The next thing now to do is to make sure we get more information from them, and I think that's what we'll be working on the next video. I think maybe I might decide to work on something else, but we'll continue from here. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. There'll be more videos like this coming up, and I will see you in the next video.